My power is leaving me!
Rose!
Hello, man things. Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the character of Miranda in Resident Evil 8. More specifically, I wanted to talk about why I don't like her. And I don't mean I don't like her within the universe of the game. In other words, I don't mean I don't like her as a person. I mean, I don't like her as the main antagonist of the game. I think that they could have done way better, and she's just like boring and kind of like lackluster. I don't think she's that great. So I'm gonna talk about it and see what you guys think. You can tell me your thoughts in the comments as always, which I love. Oh, hi Tammy. Sorry, my dog just walked in. The thing about Miranda is, like, she has a great character concept, but the execution is where we lose things. So what I mean by that is I think the idea of a woman who is grieving the loss of her daughter and ends up like basically torturing people, that is a great concept. The problem is that I think the developers focus too heavily on the concept and not heavily enough on the execution. I was in school for screenwriting for a couple years. You should be able to read a page or several pages, and the characters should already be so developed and special in themselves. You know, the characters are meant to be as well-rounded and realistic and interesting as possible. And so the way you know whether or not you've done that is if you can read several pages of a script without any names and know just by the dialogue and by the way that different people are speaking, you can know who is saying which thing. So a really good example of this is the meeting between the four lords and Miranda when Ethan first encounters them all. I'm just using a script from Game Scripts Wiki, so it's not official or anything, but it's good enough for our purpose here. So, Man with Hammer says, you mean you'll screw around with him in private, and where's the fun in that? Give him to me and I'll put on a show that everybody can enjoy. Lady Dimitrescu says, oh, so gauche. What do we care for bread and circuses? The man thinks suffering is assured regardless. And then Heisenberg says, yak, yak, and if a man's dick is cut off in the castle, blah, blah, blah. So it's really great establishment of each of their characters. Heisenberg's not going to say so gauche, and Moreau is not going to say gauche, and Angie is not going to say gauche. Like, Dimitrescu is the only one who's going to use that word. When you get to woman with a circle thing, aka Miranda, Heisenberg, the man's fate is in your hands. That could be Dimitrescu talking, could it not? And then later when she says, silence, my decision is final. There will be no argument. Like, that could be Dimitrescu also. You know, she has that sort of elevated, lofty way of speaking. That's just part of who she is. But it is to take away from Mother Miranda's character. You know, she doesn't have that uniqueness that the other characters have. If you covered up her name and you ask someone to pick out which lines were hers, I think someone could easily confuse her with someone else. I could easily confuse her with someone else. She doesn't have a personality and a speaking style and an identity that is uniquely hers. You know, she doesn't have she doesn't really have her own thing to latch onto. And I say this later in the video, but I think it shows up a lot more because, as we just discussed, one of this game's biggest strengths is that its other characters have really standout, strongly defined personalities and ways of speaking. So when the main villain doesn't, it's very noticeable. The line, your funeral. I mean, unless, I'm sure that you guys remember who said that line, but even if you don't, I bet you can probably guess. All their characters are so well fleshed out and like just great. And then you get to Miranda and you're like, oh, okay. Miranda is cool in every aspect except her actual self. So the things that she does, the effects that she has, it's all very well developed and thought out. The attention to detail is phenomenal. I love the fact that she is part of what led to the development of Umbrella in the first place. I think that's like so clever and creative. They had her not only as this sort of terrifying cult leader figure, but they gave that a really original twist by also making her this sort of mad scientist, biologist, you know, experimenting with these parasites and these really dangerous bioweapons. Like, that's just such a cool combination. And I just, like, I love that. It's such a brilliant concept. The problem is that Miranda herself really doesn't have anything to latch on to. And you know this because remember the dialogue test where you should be able to see a line of dialogue and know who said it without being told who said it, right? Well, think about Miranda. Oh, almost just fell down. Think about Miranda.
Interesting. Your body certainly isn't normal. I've spent a lifetime creating this moment, and you try to take it away from me. Take what is due. My desires will be fulfilled!
Fulfilled your purpose, Mr. Winters. Please, Mr. Winters.
I've never seen a man live without a heart before. My powers are leaving me. Interesting. Your body certainly isn't normal.
Where's the flavor? Where's the flavor in this? I don't taste anything.
Look, that could be anyone. How are you supposed to identify that with Miranda? If you saw any of those lines that I just said on a script for this game and you didn't know who was saying it, are you really gonna immediately guess Miranda? I personally would immediately guess Alcina Dimitrescu. I mean, it kind of sounds like her. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad. Like, you can have characters that sound similar, but the problem is that there is nothing identifiably Miranda-ish about Miranda herself. The essence of each individual character is so clearly demarcated until you get to Miranda. And even though we know what motivates her and we know her story, it doesn't really matter when there's none of her to latch on to. Does that make sense? The character has to have enough of their own quirks in order for them to feel like they don't just exist in the game. Obviously, they do just exist in the game, but, if we are to get lost in the Resident Evil universe and really immerse ourselves in the storyline, then it's kind of important that the characters feel like they do exist on some plane of existence. That was stupid. It's important for the characters to feel like they would exist without us. Each character does that beautifully except for Miranda. And it's so unfortunate because they did such a fantastic job with all the other characters. Like I said, the basis of comparison is crazy, but that's also what highlights the sort of lack of excitement in Miranda. When you're surrounded by all of these other amazing, really interesting, really fleshed out characters, and then it's all been leading up to your encounter with Miranda. When you finally see her and speak to her, it's so anticlimactic. And it's just such a, she's just a lady. She's just a lady. It's so disappointing. She's just a woman. She's a random woman that something really awful happened to. And she went about coping with it in probably one of the lesser recommended methods. Also, I feel like the developers kind of knew this, and so they tried to sort of compensate for it by giving her a very elaborate and meaningful backstory, even tying her to the inception of Umbrella. They are constantly being told how intricate Miranda's character is, and we're being told about all these things that she's experienced and all the things she's done, and they're really driving home to us, she's really important, she's really important. Umbrella might not even exist without Miranda, okay? Guys, Miranda is a really big deal, and, look at all this stuff she's been through, and it's great. I love that. But the problem is you can't just tell us, because it really doesn't mean anything when we have not seen or experienced any of what Miranda has supposedly seen and experienced, She's supposedly human with her own little special serving of mold abilities, but she doesn't feel human. Honestly, Moreau, the guy who's 95% mutated fish, feels more human than Miranda. Well, man, I think that's my Miranda rant. Please let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree or have a different take entirely. You guys know I love discussing this stuff with you. If you are already subscribed, thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you back. And if you are not yet subscribed, please consider joining the fam. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.